everyone. So I am in DG AGRI, unit C1, that is an horizontal unit. This one is better, okay. That is an horizontal unit. So the work about simplified cost options is really spread around the DG AGRI. So what are we doing in my unit? General principles about simplified cost options, that's what we take care of when we receive amendments of the CAP plan. So as most of you know, simplified cost options are an alternative method to calculate the eligibility of a cost. So rather than going for the analysis invoice by invoice, use this simplified method. There are different options that could be unit cost or lump sum or flat rate financing. And of course, if you try to use simplified cost options, it means that there is less workload, overall speaking, meaning first you fix the method, and for the following years it's much easier to define eligible cost rather than going again invoice by invoice. So there are a couple of articles in the CAP strategic plan regulations about establishing simplified cost options. So when we receive amendments of the CAP plans, sometimes there is a very vague indication. We want to introduce simplified cost options for this item, for this intervention, but there is no legal reference to any article of the CAP strategic plan regulation. On the contrary, it should be indicated the method that has been decided to use, the reference to the ex-ante draft budget, and all of this is in Article 44 and Article 83, Paragraph 1 and 2 of the CAP strategic plan regulation, so Regulation 2115. It sounds obvious, but it's not the case. So for clarity, quite often we ask from a horizontal point of view to specify the legal reference when the member states decide to use simplified cost option. That is always welcome. So for the 23-27 programming period, there are more and more member states using this option that I said is welcome. The reference to this CAP strategic plan regulation should be always very clearly stated in the CAP plans received by member state and sent to DG AGRI. And details should not be included in the CAP strategic plan that we receive. This last point of my presentation, so this number 3 in the slide, actually is the most important because it's a big change from the past, meaning that's enough in the CAP plan to indicate what I've just said, that is in those two articles, and nothing more. So sometimes there are more details that are not requested. There is no legal basis to put them in the CAP plan for DG AGRI. And the DG AGRI doesn't assist the methodology. So it's enough to indicate that the methodology that has been chosen and what's in those articles, but not too many details. So sometimes we receive amendments very vague, sometimes with too many details. Anyway, DG AGRI, on the basis of the new CAP strategic plan regulation, for the period 23-27, doesn't evaluate the methodology. So we don't go in details. So there is no legal basis for that. So this point is very important. It's a big change from the past in the direction also of simplification. And so it's a responsibility of the member state. That's the main point. So responsibility of the member state under the current CAP plan for DG AGRI. And now I would pass the baton to Raluca DG Regio for some more detailed slides, please, for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me to this very important event for DG AGRI. I'm delighted to be here with you this morning and to share with you a glimpse of DG Regio's experience in using simplified cost options. I've been working on this topic for the last 5 years, so I have witnessed, let's say, firsthand the changes that have occurred in this area. And I have to say I'm a little also proud that our team kind of contributed to a large extent to the situation where we are today in DG Regio. We have recently run a study where we covered the CPR funds in 14-20 and 21-27, and we wanted to have a picture of the situation of the uptake of SCOs in these funds. And here you have the summary of our study. And it has been found that in relation with the cohesion policy funds, progress has been made quite significantly, because we are now estimating that by the end of 21-27 programming period, we will be covering 20% of the cohesion policy expenditure with simplified reimbursement methods. Particularly for the ERDF, so for the Regio funds, we have also noted that the uptake has doubled or will be doubled by the end of the 21-27 compared to the 14-20 programming period. Unfortunately, for the AGRI fund, we don't have the picture for 21-27 because, as I was saying, the limitation of the study was CPR funds, and as you all know, 21-27 doesn't cover AGRI. But regardless of the fund, I must say that the obstacles that we are all facing are the same. They go from the necessity of changing the mindset, so going from a real cost to a more, simplified cost or simplified reimbursement methods. Shift in our mentality, to insufficient expertise in the authorities, but also in the Commission. We are all learning with you together. To sometimes uncertainties linked to the regulation, to the provisions, and of course up to the insufficient and or lack of sources to determine the amounts, to determine the methodology on which the SCOs should be based. However, the perception of the beneficiaries has changed. You have here a glimpse of what's happening in AGRI and in Regio funds, but this goes the same for all the funds that we have looked into the study. And as you can see, beneficiaries have understood or have acknowledged the fact that the main benefit of using simplified cost option is the reduction in the administrative burden and costs for them, but also the possibility of focusing more on the quality of their projects and the results that they want to achieve. And this is also seen in the typology of SCOs that we have now in 21-27 under Regio funds. We have completely switch for a flat rate, let's say, mindset in 14-20 to a more output-based SCOs in 21-27. Of course, flat rates for staff costs, for indirect costs are still there, but there are many SCOs that have been developed by the member states with a focus on the output or on the results. I gave here some examples, which are, some of them are very ERDF or Regio funds specific, like for example, waste collection or broadband or support for SMEs, but others are more horizontal, let's say. You can have SCOs for the organization of events or for the participation of SMEs in international fairs or exhibitions. And also, very importantly, member states are doing much effort in covering a lot of expenditure with SCOs. We have mapped that around 1/3 of our SCOs are covering the entire expenditure in a project, which is of great facilitation, of simplification for beneficiaries especially. I think the game changer for us was basically what we are all doing today here, networking. And I heard you saying this, that it's one of your preoccupation, and I can confirm that in Regio this is what it's working very well. Together with our authorities, we have set up this TN, Transnational Network on Simplification. Initially was on SCOs only, but then we extended to other areas of simplification. It has been running since 7 years now, and it is composed of representatives from all 27 member states, from the managing authorities, the national coordination bodies, and the audit authorities. I've noticed that the audit authorities are not in the room, but I think it was a very important step that we have made. Actually, in 2020, we have also invited the audit authorities to be part of this network, and it has changed a lot since then, because the cooperation between the managing authorities and the audit authorities is very important and played a very important role. So I provided you with some examples of topics that are discussed or are tackled during these meetings, but there are many, many more. We try to meet as regular as possible, 3 times per year, but in between we also have national workshops, so workshops with the national authorities specifically on request of member states or a bit also advised by us. Multi-country workshops, so peer-to-peer learning is very, very important, and it had paid a lot it paid off in long term. And also when we don't manage to meet, we do online workshops. Looking to the future, as we all know, the MFF proposal is out there. And what we have noticed in the recent month is a wider interest of member states in using also financing not linked to costs, so a bit like the RRF or the Social Climate Fund delivery model. And we are basically working now on this. And of course, the uptake will be lower, but it's a kind of a preparation for the future and for what's coming next after 2028. And the SCOs continue to be used by our member states. We still receive methodologies, and member states are still implementing this. In the presentation that I believe will be shared after the workshop, you will also find some links that might be useful for you, also to the guidance note and to other resources that we have here in DG Regio. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I serve as an auditor with DG AGRI in Unit H2. We carefully oversee and evaluate controlling aspects, ensuring the proper implementation and functioning of the SCOs. Our audit work begins with examining the setup of the methodology. It's essential that the design is fair, rooted in reality, and avoiding extremes or excesses. We strive for equity, ensuring no particular beneficiary or operation receives unfair advantages. A verifiable calculation method is crucial for transparency. This involves a detailed description of the calculation method, key steps involved, and the utilization of relevant, updated, and reliable data sources. Our job is to ensure the calculation itself is sound, thus determining the SCO's value accurately while maintaining adequate audit documentation and correctness of methodology. This process includes the clear definition of cost categories. So the methodology for us and the setup of the methodology and the correctness of the methodology is key for the success of the implementation of the SCOs. With the methodology in place, the next step is implementation. Our focus is on verifying the accuracy of the formulas or calculations used in the SCO's framework. A robust system ensures there is no double financing when combining SCOs and real costs. Moreover, verifying the deliverables and ensuring that results align with policy objectives is a critical part of the audit process. When flat rates are involved, it is imperative to guarantee that basic costs are allocated correctly and are indeed eligible under the framework. Establishing SCOs comes with a significant time commitment for involved parties, often necessitating a substantial period to design and implement these methodologies correctly. The quality and the quantity of underlying data used in this process are critical, as reliable data forms the backbone of any SCO, sound SCO framework. Accurate data not only prevents errors, but also ensures the credibility and effectiveness of SCOs. Despite these challenges, the advantages of SCOs are noteworthy. SCO have proven to considerably reduce the administrative burden associated with fund implementation. This simplification allows managing authorities and beneficiaries to focus more on achieving policy objectives rather than being bogged down by complex financial reporting requirements. Moreover, SCOs facilitate better access to EU funds, ensuring beneficiaries can expedite implementation and receive payments more effectively. This alleviation of complexities inherently reduces the possibility of errors, ensuring a smoother process that benefits all stakeholders involved. In turn, this leads to a faster realization of projects and initiatives that serve the public good. Drawing from our experiences, we can affirm that overcoming these challenges and harnessing the advantages of SCOs is not only possible, but essential. By working collaboratively, sharing knowledge, and continually refining our approaches, we can optimize SCO methodologies for greater impact across member states. As we progress in our understanding and application of simplified cost options, the role of thorough and insightful auditing remains pivotal. Our goal is not just to enforce compliance, but to facilitate an effective environment where policy goals are met more efficiently, benefiting us all in the future. Thank you very much.
Right, we need the full kit. We need the microphone, which I have to almost eat, apparently. We need the clicker. I have to admit, I'm already surprised because I was sure that with the first presentation, we were going to go way over time with one speaker after another, but the baton handover is super efficient, etc. So I think we're okay, no? Let's see if I can spoil that. No, I'll try not to. So my name's Mike McKenzie. I work in DG AGRI. For a few months, I've been working in the unit dealing with the economic dimension of sustainability. Before that, I was working for, well, 9.5 years on the CAP as a whole, including impact assessment, design of green architecture and stuff like that. So the recent move actually means that with regard to simplified cost options, good news. I don't actually know that much. I'm not a Jedi Knight on this as yet, but it is good news because it means I'm not going to tell all of you how to do it and be a commissioned person who says, right, this is the way it is. But it is a very interesting topic, and I can see already genuinely important. I'm going to say a few words now on behalf of a number of colleagues quite quickly about SCOs in the current CAP, a little bit the past CAP, and then a word on the future as well, even though the future isn't going to be the focus of today. So let's start off in the current period with cooperation interventions. And this slide has a relatively simple message in a way with the numbers, which is that actually for cooperation interventions, the use of simplified cost options is not bad, shall we say. So in the diagram on the left, what you see with the purple, so it's the proportion, the percentage of overall cooperation interventions in CAP strategic plans that have some element of simplified cost options. So you can see there, it's not pure simplified cost options. It's usually a mixture of SCOs and reimbursement of actual costs, but still at 88%, you know, that's not bad, I think, compared to some of the other interventions. On the right there, you can see a little bit more of a breakdown of the types of support that you get through cooperation interventions. So we can see there that the use of SCOs very strong for operational groups of the European Innovation Partnership for agricultural productivity and sustainability. Likewise, very strong for LEADER, fairly strong for support for other forms of cooperation, which is what it should say at the bottom there. And then across the other types, you can see a certain level of use of SCOs. A quick word on LEADER in particular, and I think we do have one of our LEADER experts in the room today, if necessary. So by my understanding, with those people involved in LEADER, there's quite a good level of knowledge of SCOs already. There's quite a long experience. So in the current period, there's been a certain level of rolling over of use of SCOs for LEADER. So they're used extensively by a lot of member states in the LEADER approach. So we do see unit costs, we do see flat rates, we do see lump sums, sometimes based on draft budgets. What do these SCOs typically cover? They do cover preparatory costs of local development strategies, the running costs of the local action groups, small projects and rural startups. There are still some member states that don't really use SCOs for LEADER or use them in a very limited way. And I suppose the Commission is always trying to encourage greater use there. We will have a slide on the future in a moment, but there is a point on the future just at the bottom here, specifically in relation to LEADER. So with its proposals for the future multi-annual financial framework for after 2027, so that includes the future of the CAP, the future of other EU-funded policies, etc. There is a certain level of obligation proposed for SCOs with LEADER. So these would be obligatory for the running costs of local action groups. And then for lump sums would be obligatory for projects up to 20,000 euros. And then for rural startups, it's not actually an obligation, but there is explicit mention in the proposed legal text that you can do a lump sum where the support for a rural startup is up to 100,000 euros. Oops, we've managed to... Okay, how do I get that back? All right, it doesn't really matter anyway, let's face it. Can you still read the... You just have to move your thumb a little bit, and of course it messes things up potentially. So a quick word about investment support here. Now, unfortunately, we don't really have much information about use of SCOs in investment support for now. So we're very interested to hear, of course, experiences today. But with regard to the previous policy period, of the SCOs that there were in total covering all measures under rural development policy, 34% of those concerned investments in physical assets. They may, by the way, also have concerned other measures, just to be clear about that. 18% concerned investments in forest area development, and 19% concerned restoring production potential and preventing damage. So that's for agriculture and forestry, of course. So for the current period, as I say, we still don't really have much information, but there has been considerable potential to use SCOs for investment support, partly as basically around 29% of rural development support for the current period, so that's both from the EFRD and from national funding, was planned for investment support, basically. That's according to information from 2023 from our mapping study. So that means that investment support really is among the obvious candidates for greater use of SCOs, but if we can get it right, of course, and we're always aware of the difficulties there, and that's what much of this workshop is about today. So I said I'd say a few words about the future. I emphasize this is not the focal point of today. The idea is not that the Commission goes through all its proposals and then people throw tomatoes and say, what about this, what about that particular letter there? Are you sure you haven't got that wrong? But it is an important part of the context here, so I think we have to say something. So again, according to the Commission's proposals for after 2027, for the multi-annual financial framework, including the CAP, regional policy, etc. A general rule has been proposed with regard to member states' future national and regional partnership plans for a situation where there are no other rules applying. So this basic rule is that, in fact, the slide should say either financing not linked to cost or certain types of SCO would have to be used where the total estimated cost of an operation doesn't exceed 400,000 euros. That's unless state aid rules say otherwise. So that's a general rule. We're talking way beyond the cap here. This is not even primarily the cap for that one, though it will apply to the cap in some cases. It's really for all support under the national and regional partnership plans. But then there is a particular rule for what I've called CAP interventions that has a certain meaning here. I won't go into too much detail. again, unless other rules apply. So it's the same as the rule above, actually, but the threshold is lower to avoid, given that the cap supports quite a lot of small projects, we don't want absolutely everything to be caught by the rule, but it's the same as the rule above, but the threshold would be lower, 100,000 euros in that case. And then finally, I'll mention a specific rule that has been proposed for effectively the future cap intervention measure, support for investments for farmers and forest holders. It looks similar in some ways, but it's a little bit different to the one above. So certain types of SCO would have to be used for this support as well, where the public support doesn't exceed 100,000 euros and where public procurement rules don't apply. So just note the difference between those two there. With the one above, it was a matter of the total estimated cost of the operation. For investment support, it's a matter of the public support. So of course that applies rather differently. Now I can imagine here lots of people in the room are going, oh yeah, we think we've seen this already. What does it mean? What does it mean? Can we ask some questions? No, you can't immediately, sorry. Maybe later over coffee, etc. or whatever. It's not the focus of today, but we did have to put it in context a little bit, and I may comment on that a bit when we wrap up at the end of the day as well. But I hope that helps to complete the presentation by giving an impression of where we are with the cap, and I think that's the last slide. So with the future, we end the presentation, which is appropriate enough. Thank you.